So this is my Death Guard army. It's quite a small army. It's one of my smallest armies that I've got here. I'm quite a fan of it. It looks quite cool, I think. But it is sort of the final army that I play. Those 4 armies that I play are basically Blood Angels, Imperial Guard, Imperial Knights, and then finally Death Guard. And just like the Imperial Guard video, I'll just sort of go into the HQs, the troops, and all the other kind of types of units, and we'll sort of talk about them in a bit more detail. So for HQs, this is what we're working with: a Lord of Contagion and a Plaguecaster. Now, if you've seen some of my other videos, you'll notice that these are the 2 actually from the 500 points for £50 series. Nothing has changed. These are essentially the same from the video. I've not actually went and bought any other HQ models, so these are the only 2 models that I've got for the army. So this guy is, you know, from that Dark Imperium set, the No Fear start set. And I believe you can't actually get him anymore on the GW site, which is kind of weird. But I guess his sprue was sort of thrown in with a load of other guys as well in that set. He's just a stock guy. Nothing's really happened with him. He's just used my sort of Death Guard color scheme. So that's that guy. This guy was already painted and I didn't actually strip him. But I think the paint job kind of worked out. I am missing the other side of his kind of like little robed headpiece there. I'm not entirely sure where it's gone, but if I find it, I'll obviously glue it back. But it does look kind of weird, but hey, it's fine. I mean, no one really notices when you're playing a game with him. But the army that I've got in general, it's probably around 1,500 points, maybe a bit less than that. So the only time that I've actually played Death Guard has been in sort of incursion-sized games, looking at like 500 points to 1,000 points. And these are the only HQs that I'll ever sort of need. As to other HQs, the only one that I really was thinking about is the Demon Prince. So here are the troops. We're working with essentially 17 Plague Marines and 28 Poxwalkers. I've got one more Plague Marine, but he hasn't been painted yet. The Plague Marines, will start with those first. We've got a few different weapon options in there. We've got a Plasma Rifle, we've got Flail of Corruption there, and a Great Plague Cleaver. We've got a Blight Launcher as well there. But everything else minus the 2 sergeants are just sort of armed with bolt guns. And we've also got a guy over here. He's got a little axe. These guys actually at the back, I'll just show you them here. We've got basically 2 here and 1 at the front here. These are models from the original, I think 7th edition or 6th edition starter set. These guys are the chosen models, I believe. They are a little bit smaller than the sort of original Plague Marine sculpts, or these sculpts over here, but they fit quite well for bulking out a force if I want, say, a bigger squad of Plague Marines or something. And it is kind of annoying that they're the same pose. I actually have another guy as well that is exactly the same model, and I feel like having too many guys with the same poses are a little bit weird. So, and then the rest of them are essentially from the First Strike box, the No Fear box from 8th edition. Those 2 are both from 8th, or the Plague Marine actual kit that you can get. There's one exception to that though, which is this guy. And this guy is from the Space Marine Heroes sets they had. I don't think they sell them anymore, but they had like a Death Guard version of it where you could get different Plague Marines. I quite like this guy. I got this guy from, I think, like a game somewhere. He's throwing a grenade and he's got a little Nurgle in there on his base. Definitely one of the cooler looking models, I think, from that range. The problem that I do have with him is that I painted him sort of separately. So a lot of these guys were painted at home where I had a load of paints. This guy's painted at university, so some of his colors are a bit different, as I lacked some of the paints that I did have at home here. So he is a little bit brighter than the other ones, but I think it's not really too much of an issue. And again, it's Death Guard, so I feel like you need to be kind of messy with it sometimes, and not everything is going to be uniform, like say a Space Marine army or an Imperial Guard army. And next to them are the Poxwalkers. They basically come from 3 lots of the 6-pack Poxwalker sets they had during 8th edition, and then 1 10-man squad of Poxwalkers. So I say the word 8th edition a lot here. A lot of the models that I had were from those starter sets, mainly because they were just really cheap, and you could buy them quite cheap at the time. But now they're a little bit more expensive because I had 3 of those sets here. So I've got quite a few duplicates. I've got 3 lots of the same models, which is kind of a bit weird. But I think when they're in a horde, you can't really tell too much. But yeah, this was, I think at the time, quite impressive before they released the Combat Patrol where you get 30 Poxwalkers. But at the time I was like, I've got a lot of Poxwalkers. But yeah, some of the highlights, I guess. I'm a big fan of like the lab coat guy here. So he's looking quite grim, quite pasty, you know. He's got his bowels open and bleeding and stuff. Very nice. A lot of Nurgle's Rot and Blood for the Blood God were used for these guys. So I like the guy with the robotic arm as well, looking pretty cool. Here's a guy here with some nice jeans, and him just riddled with plague. So here are the elites. You can see that we've got two elites basically, a 6-man squad of Blightlord Terminators, and then we've got one Hellbrute here in the back. So this is basically just straight from the Blightlord Terminator set here, except this guy. This guy is actually, I think, the original Typhus model, but he's been given a different head and his scythe has been lost. So this guy, I guess, isn't really a Blightlord Terminator, but I like to proxy it as one if I want a 6-man squad. Or sometimes I'll just proxy this guy, say a Tallyman or another sort of character elite model. But this guy is, yeah, just essentially a converted version of the old Typhus model. I think he holds up quite well. He's got a lot of nice little detail, and there's a few Nurglings around him, I believe. There we go. So yeah, you can see there's a little Nurgling on the side there, so that's pretty cool. He's just got a head from the Blightlord Terminator set, and everything else is sort of just from that Typhus model. We've got a Plague Spewer here, we've got a Blight Launcher, and we've got a Flail as well at the front. But yeah, I quite like the scheme that I've done on these guys. They are again a bit brighter because I painted them at university, but again, I think it looks fine on the table. Always bring these guys with me, really. I think my army's quite small, but the Blightlord Terminators are definitely some of the MVPs in the games that I do play with them. And this Hellbrute is straight from the Dark Vengeance starter set, just like the other 3 Plague Marines that I showed off in the troops section. And this guy was actually painted by my brother quite a while ago, so his colour scheme is a bit different. But I think that Hellbrute kind of fits with the aesthetic of a Nurgle army quite well. You know, you've got all that demonic, you know, disgusting fleshy bits, you know, behind on the back there, and loads of weird tentacle looking things. So for fast attack, we've just got this guy here. It's a Mephitic Blight Hauler. Because I've had him for quite a while, some of these little spiky bits have fallen off. One of the most annoying things about having a Death Guard or any Chaos army really is the amount of spikes on things, and they just break off when you try and transport them around. I do like the slug trails, a little feature there. You can see we've got some like slimy trails here coming along, so I wanted to put that there to make it a little bit more gruesome. And finally we've got a heavy support, and this is just the one heavy support I've got, and it's a Plague Burst Crawler. And again, suffering from that spike issue earlier that I said. We're missing a little spike at the front because I transported it a lot, and you know, it fell off. Love this model. I really like the Plague Burst Crawler models. They're very gruesome. They're very Death Guard. You know, you've got this really crude system here for sort of like pointing up the mortar. It's very living. It reminds me sort of Monster House in a way, if you've seen that, where sort of the house is alive, and it's very similar to these demon engines really. And you can see that we've got some, you know, disgusting little holes. If you've got a fear of holes, it can look quite disgusting. But yeah. And finally, just a bonus here, we've got this objective marker, this Nurgle themed objective marker. This is courtesy of my brother again. He made this quite a while ago, but I've just kind of stuck it on a poker chip here. Classic Nurgle, some rotten skeleton guy. It's just stuck on like an old Chaos Biker bit that we had lying around. Fun fact, if you didn't know, objective markers are the same size as poker chips, so anything on, I think it's a 50mm base or something, they have the same dimensions. So if you have poker chips, you should use those as objective markers, if you don't already. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, leave a like, and subscribe if you're not subscribed. So expect to see some more sort of army showcases and a lot of battle reports coming soon, so stay tuned for those.